My name is Elena Carter, and the morning my 6-year-old son locked our front door and begged me not to let his father back in, I thought he was overreacting. My husband Daniel had just left for a routine business trip, but then Liam whispered something that made my blood run cold. "Mom, I heard Daddy say we won't be here by tomorrow." What I discovered in the next 24 hours turned my entire life into a nightmare, and the man I thought I knew became someone I barely recognized. If you want to know what happens when your greatest protector becomes your greatest threat, stay with me. If you're watching this video right now, I'd love to know where you're from. Drop it in the comment section below. Hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories about families, betrayal, and finding the strength to choose yourself. I watched Daniel's taillights disappear down our quiet suburban street, the red glow fading into the early morning fog. My husband of 8 years, Daniel Carter, always looked so calm and collected when he left for these business trips. His perfectly pressed suit, his leather briefcase, that reassuring smile he gave me before kissing my forehead and saying, "Just 2 days, Ellie. I'll call you tonight." I should have known something was wrong right then. I should have noticed the way his hands trembled slightly as he gripped the steering wheel, or how his eyes darted to the rearview mirror 3 times before he even reached the end of our driveway. But I didn't. I was too focused on mentally planning a quiet weekend with our 6-year-old son Liam. Maybe we'd bake cookies, watch cartoons, build that Lego spaceship he'd been begging to start. The moment Daniel's car turned the corner and vanished from sight, I felt Liam's small hand grip mine with unexpected force. I looked down at him, expecting to see his usual bright smile, but instead his face had gone pale. His eyes were fixed on the front door, wide and unblinking. "Liam, honey, what's wrong?" I asked, kneeling down to his level. He didn't answer. He just stared at that door like it was a mouth about to swallow us whole. Then, in a voice so small and trembling it made my chest tighten, he whispered, "Mom, lock it. Now." The urgency in his tone made me obey before my brain could even process the request. I reached over and turned the deadbolt, hearing it click into place. The sound seemed unnaturally loud in the silence of our entryway. Before I could ask him what was going on, Liam broke free from my hand and ran to the door. He jumped up, his small fingers barely reaching the chain lock near the top, but he managed to slide it into place with shaking hands. Then he checked the deadbolt again, twisting it to make sure it was secure. "Liam, you're scaring me. What's this about?" He turned to face me, and I saw something in his expression that no 6-year-old should ever have to wear. Fear. Real, raw, adult fear. "Don't let Dad back in," he said. The words hit me like a slap. For a moment, I couldn't speak. I couldn't even breathe. This was Daniel we were talking about. My Daniel. The man who read Liam bedtime stories every night, who built elaborate blanket forts on rainy Saturdays, who cried when Liam took his first steps. The idea that our son would be afraid of him was absurd. "Sweetheart, that's a really strange thing to say. Did you and Daddy have a fight? Did something happen?" Liam shook his head quickly, but his eyes filled with tears. I pulled him close, feeling his little body trembling against mine. I stroked his dark hair, trying to calm him, trying to calm myself. "Talk to me, baby. What's going on?" He pulled back just enough to look up at me, his lower lip quivering. "I heard Daddy talking downstairs last night." My mind flashed back to the night before. I'd woken up around 2 in the morning, pulled from sleep by the sound of muffled voices drifting up from the first floor. I'd assumed Daniel was watching television, keeping the volume low so he wouldn't disturb me. He'd been stressed lately, working long hours, struggling with insomnia. It wouldn't have been the first time he'd spent half the night in front of the TV. He was probably just watching a show, honey. Daddy hasn't been sleeping well. Liam shook his head more forcefully this time.
"No, Mom."
He was talking to someone. And he said something bad. The way he emphasized that last word made my stomach drop. "What did he say?" Liam's voice came out in barely more than a whisper. "He said we won't be here by tomorrow." The phrasing sent ice through my veins. "We won't be here by tomorrow." Not "I won't be here," or "she won't be here."
"We."
Plural. And the way Liam said it, the specific words, it sounded too adult, too precise for a child to make up. Are you sure that's what you heard? He nodded, tears spilling down his cheeks now. I was thirsty. I came out to get water, and I heard him on the phone in his office. The door was open a little bit. He didn't see me. Before I could press him for more details, we both heard it. Footsteps. Slow and heavy, approaching our driveway. They stopped somewhere near our porch. Liam's entire body went rigid in my arms. I pulled him behind me instinctively, my heart suddenly hammering against my ribs. Moving as quietly as I could, I crept toward the door and peered through the peephole. A dark figure stood just beyond our porch light's reach. I couldn't make out any features, just a silhouette, tall and still, facing our house. Watching. Then came a knock. Not frantic or aggressive. Just one soft, deliberate tap against the wood. I held my breath, one hand pressed against the door, the other clutching Liam's shoulder. We stood there frozen, neither of us daring to move or make a sound. The silence that followed that single knock was worse than any noise could have been. It stretched on, thick and suffocating. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, I heard the footsteps again. They moved away from the door, down the porch steps, growing fainter until they disappeared entirely. I turned back to Liam, trying to keep my voice steady. It's okay. They're gone. But even as I said it, I knew it wasn't okay. Nothing about this was okay. Liam's fear, that figure at our door, Daniel's strange behavior lately, and those words my son had overheard. We won't be here by tomorrow. A question lodged itself in my mind, cold and persistent, refusing to leave. Who was that person? And why did they come the moment Daniel left? I led Liam to the kitchen, hoping that the familiar routine of breakfast might ease some of the tension coiling in my chest. But as I pulled out the cereal and milk, I noticed he wouldn't sit in his usual chair by the window. Instead, he dragged his seat to the far corner of the room, as far from any windows as possible. Liam, come sit here where you always sit. He shook his head firmly.
No.
He can see us. Who can see us? He didn't answer, just stared at his hands folded in his lap. The way he said it, so matter-of-fact, made my skin crawl. I left the curtains closed, something I never did. Our kitchen usually flooded with morning light, but today I wanted the shadows. As I poured orange juice into his cup, my phone caught my eye on the counter. We had security cameras installed last year after a string of break-ins in the neighborhood. Daniel had insisted on them, saying he wanted us to feel safe when he traveled. I'd barely used the app since installation, but now I opened it with trembling fingers. The screen loaded, showing feeds from 4 cameras: front door, back door, driveway, and side yard. Except the driveway camera showed only a black screen with white text, "Camera offline." That was odd. The system had been working fine yesterday. I checked the other cameras. They were all functioning normally. Just the driveway camera was down. My mind raced. Could it have been deliberately disabled? But by who? Daniel left this morning, and that figure showed up right after. Unless. I tapped into the recorded footage from last night, scrolling back to around the time Liam said he heard Daniel talking. The timestamp read 1:47 in the morning. The video was grainy in the darkness, but motion-activated lights had clicked on, illuminating our front yard in harsh, white light. There was Daniel, walking outside in jeans and a dark jacket. And he wasn't alone. Another person stood with him, someone wearing a hoodie that obscured most of their face. I couldn't hear what they were saying, the cameras didn't have audio, but I could see Daniel's face clearly. His jaw was tight, his posture rigid. This wasn't a casual conversation. This was tense, confrontational. Then the hooded figure did something that made my blood run cold. They pointed toward our house, and then their finger moved deliberately to Liam's bedroom window on the second floor. I felt like I might be sick. I watched the rest of the footage in frozen horror as the two figures talked for another minute before the hooded person walked away into the darkness. Daniel stood there for a long moment, his head bowed, before turning back toward the house. I looked over at Liam, who was pushing cereal around his bowl without eating. He'd seen something or heard something that terrified him, and I dismissed it as a child's nightmare. But this footage proved something was very, very wrong. After getting Liam settled in the living room with his tablet, I went into Daniel's office. He usually kept it immaculate, everything in its place, organized with the precision you'd expect from an accountant. But today, papers were scattered across his normally spotless desk. File folders sat half open, and one of his desk drawers wasn't closed all the way. I pulled the drawer open fully and found something that made my hands go numb. A second cell phone. Cheap, prepaid, the kind you'd buy at a gas station. Not the expensive smartphone Daniel always carried. Why would my husband have a burner phone? My fingers shook as I turned it on. Most of the messages had been deleted, the call log wiped clean. But in one text thread, a few messages remained. I read them 3 times, hoping I'd misunderstood, hoping there was some innocent explanation. It has to happen before she wakes up. The kid too? No loose ends. The phone nearly slipped from my grasp.
The kid.
They were talking about Liam, my baby. And that first message before she wakes up, that was about me. I tried to call Daniel on his regular number, my finger stabbing at the screen with desperate urgency. It went straight to voicemail. His recorded voice, so calm and normal, felt like mockery now. "Hey, this is Daniel Carter. Leave a message and I'll get back to you." I hung up and sent a text instead. "Call me now. Emergency." The message showed as delivered but never changed to read. My phone rang and I jumped, nearly dropping it. But it was just my mother calling for our usual Sunday morning chat. I almost didn't answer, but some part of me craved the normalcy, the connection to a world where husbands didn't have secret phones and mysterious conversations about making people disappear. "Hi, Mom." I managed, trying to keep my voice level.
Ella, honey.
"How are you? Is Daniel already gone on his trip?" "Yeah, he left this morning." We talked for a few minutes about nothing, about the weather and her garden, and whether I'd seen the latest episode of that show she liked. I tried to focus on her words, to let them distract me from the nightmare unfolding around me. But then something caught my eye. Behind the vent cover in the living room, something was sticking out. Just a corner of what looked like brown paper, barely visible in the gap between the metal grating and the wall. "Mom, I have to go. Liam needs something." I hung up before she could respond and crossed the room. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely grip the edges of the vent cover. I pried it loose, and something fell onto the carpet with a soft thud. A small package, wrapped in brown paper and secured with tape. Inside, I found 3 things: a USB drive, a folded receipt, and a note in Daniel's handwriting. The note was brief. Just one sentence that made my world tilt sideways. "If you're reading this, I'm sorry." I stared at that note until the words blurred. Daniel's handwriting, so familiar from grocery lists and birthday cards and love notes tucked into my lunch. But these words carried a weight that made them almost unrecognizable. "If you're reading this, I'm sorry." Sorry for what? What had he done? With trembling hands, I grabbed my laptop and plugged in the USB drive. My heart pounded as I waited for it to load, each second feeling like an hour. Finally, a window popped up showing dozens of files organized into folders. I clicked on the first one: bank transfers. Hundreds of them, dating back 3 years. Large sums of money moving between accounts I'd never heard of, all with Daniel's name attached. Offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands, shell corporations with generic names like Apex Holdings and Summit Ventures, LLC. The next folder made my stomach turn. It was labeled Client Ledger, Do Not Share. Inside were spreadsheets listing names, dates, and cash deposits. Some amounts were in the hundreds of thousands. And next to many entries was a single letter: G. I opened another folder and found scanned documents, property deeds, business licenses, all tied together in a web I couldn't fully understand. But I understood enough. This wasn't normal accounting work. This was something else entirely. Something illegal. Then I found the audio files. My hand hovered over the first one for a long moment before I clicked it. Daniel's voice filled the room, and I quickly turned down the volume, glancing toward the living room where Liam sat. "I can't keep doing this." Daniel's voice was strained, desperate. "She's starting to ask questions." Another voice responded, male, calm, almost amused. Then take care of it. Take care of what? Her questions or... You know what I mean, Daniel. You've always known. You just hoped you'd never have to make the choice. The recording ended abruptly. I sat there, my laptop open in my lap, feeling like I'd been gutted. Take care of it. The casual cruelty in that man's voice, the resignation in Daniel's response. This was real. This was actually happening. A noise from outside made me slam the laptop shut. Liam heard it too. He was suddenly standing beside me, his face white with fear. Mom, someone's at the gate. I heard it then, the metallic scraping of someone trying to open our side gate. The one that led to the backyard. The one that was supposed to be locked. I grabbed Liam's hand and pulled him toward the stairs.
Come on, baby.
Quietly. We ran up the stairs as quickly and silently as we could. I guided him into my bedroom and then into the walk-in closet, pulling the door shut behind us. In the darkness, I held Liam close, one hand clamped over my mouth to muffle my breathing. The sounds from outside continued. Footsteps circling the house now, slow and methodical. Testing windows. Checking doors. Someone was trying to get in, and they weren't being particularly subtle about it. I fumbled for my phone in the darkness and pulled up the emergency number. But instead of calling, I decided to text, terrified that a voice call might give away our location. I typed quickly, someone trying to break into my house. 428 Maple Drive. Hiding with my son. Please help. The response came back almost immediately. All units currently occupied. Please remain calm. An officer will attempt to contact you shortly. I read the message 3 times, my disbelief morphing into terror. All units occupied? On a Sunday morning in our quiet suburb? No one was coming. We were on our own. The footsteps outside grew fainter, but I didn't move. I couldn't risk it. Instead, I remembered the receipt that had been in the package with the USB drive. I carefully pulled it from my pocket, using my phone's flashlight to read it in the confined space of the closet. It was from Bradley's Hardware, dated yesterday. The timestamp showed 10:43 at night. The items purchased made my blood run cold. 50 feet of rope, a roll of duct tape, work gloves, and a heavy-duty padlock. Daniel had bought these things. My husband had gone to a hardware store late at night and purchased tools that, in any other context, might be innocent. But combined with everything else, with those text messages and that audio recording and the hooded figure pointing at our son's window, they painted a picture I couldn't unsee. Liam shifted in my arms, and I looked down at his face illuminated by the glow of my phone. His eyes were wide and wet with tears. Mom, he whispered, I didn't tell you everything about last night. My heart clenched. What else, baby? It's okay. You can tell me. His voice came out barely audible. When I heard Daddy talking, he said something about going to sleep. He said we would go to sleep and it wouldn't hurt. The words landed like physical blows. Go to sleep. It wouldn't hurt. The implications crashed over me in waves. Daniel wasn't planning to leave us. He was planning something far worse. I pulled Liam tighter against me, tears streaming down my face now. I had to do something. I couldn't just hide in this closet and wait for whatever was coming. But who could I call? Who could I trust? Then I remembered Mark, Daniel's best friend since college, the guy who'd been his best man at our wedding. If anyone knew what Daniel was involved in, it would be Mark. I dialed his number with shaking fingers. It rang 4 times before he picked up.
Elena.
His voice sounded strange. Nervous. Is everything okay? Mark, I need you to tell me what's going on. Daniel's mixed up in something, and I found things, terrible things, and someone just tried to break into our house, and... Elena, stop. His interruption was sharp, panicked. Where are you right now? I'm home, hiding with Liam. Mark, what's happening? Please, you have to know something. There was a long pause. I could hear him breathing heavily on the other end. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. Elena, leave.
Now.
What do you mean, leave? Mark, talk to me. What's going on? Mark's breathing came faster through the phone. Daniel's been in deep with a client for years. I told him to get out, I begged him, but he said it was too late. They don't let people leave, Elena. They don't. A loud bang cut through his words, the sound of a door being kicked open. I heard Mark's sharp intake of breath, furniture scraping, heavy footsteps. They found me, he whispered, and then the line went dead. I stared at my phone in horror. They found him. Mark was in danger because of whatever Daniel had gotten involved in. And if they went after Mark, they would definitely come after us. I had to move.
Now.
Liam, we need to leave the house. Right now. I shoved my phone in my pocket, grabbed a backpack from the closet shelf, and started throwing in whatever I could reach. Clothes, my wallet, Liam's inhaler, a bottle of water. My movements were frantic, graceless. Every second we stayed felt like a countdown to something terrible. We crept down the stairs, and I could see the front door from the landing. Still locked, chains still in place. But the back of the house felt wrong somehow, exposed. I made a split-second decision and led Liam toward the sliding glass door that opened to our backyard. Are we going through the fence? Liam whispered.
Yes.
Stay close to me and don't make any noise. The woods behind our neighborhood had always seemed like a pleasant feature, a buffer between our development and the commercial district beyond. Now they represented escape, cover, a chance to disappear. We slipped through our back gate and into the trees. The underbrush grabbed at our clothes as we moved, but I didn't slow down. I kept one hand locked around Liam's wrist, pulling him along, my other hand holding branches out of the way. Mom, is Dad still a good guy? Liam's voice was small and lost. I didn't know how to answer that. Was Daniel a good guy who made terrible choices? Or had I never really known him at all? The man who read bedtime stories and the man who bought rope and duct tape at midnight couldn't possibly be the same person. Except they were. I don't know, baby. I don't know anymore. We emerged from the woods near a gas station on Riverside Avenue. I kept us behind the building near the dumpsters trying to think. My sister Ava lived about 40 minutes away by car, but we had no car. Walking would take hours, and with whoever was looking for us, hours might be too long. I was about to suggest we start walking anyway when I heard voices. Two men, talking near the corner of the gas station building. I pressed myself and Liam flat against the wall, hardly daring to breathe. Boss said a woman and a kid, matching the description exactly. Brown hair, about 35, kids maybe 6 or 7. And they're definitely running? Carter's car is still at the house, so she's on foot. Can't have gotten far. G wants them before nightfall. G, that letter from the files. Gabriel? Gregory? Whoever he was, he wanted us found, and he had people actively searching. The men's voices grew louder as they walked closer to where we hid. I looked around desperately for an escape route. There was a narrow gap between the dumpster and the fence behind the gas station. If we could slip through without being seen. But then it happened. Liam's small toy truck, the one he'd been clutching since we left the house, slipped from his fingers and clattered against the pavement. The sound seemed impossibly loud in the quiet morning. The men's conversation stopped immediately. Did you hear that? I didn't wait to hear more. I grabbed Liam and ran. We cut through the alley behind the gas station, then through someone's backyard. A dog barked furiously as we jumped their fence. I heard shouting behind us, footsteps pounding pavement. They were chasing us. My lungs burned. Liam was crying, but he kept running, kept pace with me somehow. We vaulted over a low fence, crashed through a hedge, and found ourselves on another residential street. A bus was pulling away from a stop 2 blocks down. Run, Liam. Run. We sprinted toward it. I waved my arms frantically, and miraculously, the driver saw us and stopped. We stumbled aboard, and I shoved bills at the driver without counting them. The doors closed, and the bus lurched forward. I collapsed into a seat near the back, pulling Liam onto my lap. He was shaking, and so was I. Through the window, I saw one of the men from the gas station emerge onto the street, looking around frantically. But we were moving, pulling away, and he didn't see us. For the first time in what felt like hours, I let myself take a full breath. We'd escaped.
For now.
I was about to tell Liam it was going to be okay when he pointed out the window at something that made my heart stop. Mom, that's Dad's car. I followed his finger and saw it. Daniel's silver Honda Accord, parked across the street from where the bus had just picked us up. The windows were dark. The driver's seat was empty. If Daniel's car was here, and he wasn't in it, then where was he? And why was his car parked along the route we'd just happened to run? The bus continued down the street, and I watched Daniel's empty car disappear behind us, that question echoing in my mind with terrifying implications. Had he been following us? Waiting for us? Or was something else entirely going on? Something I couldn't see yet? Liam pressed closer to me, and I held him tight, both of us refugees in our own city, running from threats I barely understood. The morning had started with Daniel leaving for a business trip. Now, just hours later, my entire life had shattered into something unrecognizable. And somewhere out there, my husband was moving through this nightmare too. Whether as hunter or prey, I couldn't tell. But I knew with absolute certainty that before this day ended, I would have to face him. And when I did, one of us wouldn't walk away. The bus rumbled beneath us as I stared out the window at Daniel's empty car growing smaller in the distance. My chest felt like someone had wrapped steel bands around it and was tightening them with every breath. If his car was there, parked along the exact route we'd just run, then his supposed flight to see clients was a complete lie, which meant he was somewhere nearby.
Close.
Maybe watching us right now. Liam squeezed my hand and whispered, "Mom, is Dad coming to find us?" I wanted to tell him no, that we were safe, that everything would be okay. But the word stuck in my throat because I honestly didn't know the answer. Was Daniel hunting us? Or was something else happening that I couldn't see yet? An elderly woman sitting across the aisle noticed my pale face and Liam's tear-stained cheeks. She leaned forward with concern creasing her weathered features. "Dear, are you all right? You look absolutely terrified." I forced my lips into what I hoped resembled a smile. "We're fine, thank you. Just running late for an appointment." But Liam, in that brutally honest way only children possess, blurted out, "We're running away." The woman's eyebrows shot up. I felt heat flood my face as I quickly shushed Liam and pulled him closer. The woman kept staring at us, suspicion evident in her eyes.
Great.
The last thing we needed was someone calling the police thinking I was kidnapping my own son. "Family emergency," I added weakly. "We're just a bit frazzled." The woman nodded slowly, but didn't look convinced. I turned away, focusing on the passing storefronts and trying to look like a normal mother on a normal Sunday outing. But my heart was racing and my hands wouldn't stop shaking. That's when I felt it. A vibration in my pocket. The burner phone I'd taken from Daniel's office. I pulled it out carefully, shielding the screen from view. An unknown number flashed with a new text message. My stomach dropped as I read the words. Status? They gone yet? Someone thought they were texting Daniel. Someone who expected an update on whether we were gone.
Dead.
Disposed of. Whatever horrible euphemism they were using for murder. My first instinct was to throw the phone out the window, to smash it and pretend I'd never seen the message. But then a thought crystallized in my panicked mind. If they thought they were talking to Daniel, I could use that. I could feed them false information, buy us time, maybe even figure out who they were. My fingers trembled as I typed a response, trying to imagine what Daniel would say, what they expected to hear.
Yes.
Leaving the house now. Will be handled tonight.
No witnesses.
I hit send before I could second-guess myself. The message showed as delivered, then read. Threads appeared, indicating someone was typing. The response came quickly.
Good.
G doesn't want any delays. Meet same place at 6. Gee, there was that letter again. And now I had a meeting location, even if I didn't know where it was. I quickly took a screenshot of the conversation and emailed it to my personal account, creating a backup of evidence. If something happened to me, at least there would be a trail. The thought of going to the police surfaced again, stronger this time. I should go to a station, show them the USB drive, the texts, the audio recordings. But that response from earlier, all units occupied, kept nagging at me. What if G had connections inside law enforcement? What if the moment I walked into a precinct, the wrong person got alerted? The men at the gas station had found us impossibly fast. They knew what we looked like, where we lived, probably everything about us. The bus slowed at a transfer station where passengers could switch to different routes. People started shuffling toward the exits, and I was about to stand up too, when a man stepped onto the bus from the front entrance. He wore a suit and a baseball cap pulled low over his face. His head was bowed like he was checking his phone, but something about his posture, the way he moved, sent recognition shooting through me like electricity. Daniel. My husband stepped onto the bus, and for a split second, our eyes met. His widened with something that looked like relief, maybe even terror. He took a step toward us, his mouth opening to say something. I didn't wait to hear it. I grabbed Liam and yanked him out of his seat. Move, baby, move. We pushed past confused passengers, fighting our way to the back exit. Someone protested as I shoved by them, but I didn't stop, didn't apologize. The back doors started to close, and I wedged my body between them, forcing them open long enough for Liam to slip through. Then I tumbled out after him. We hit the pavement running. Behind us, I could hear Daniel's voice calling out, Elena!
Wait.
Please. But I didn't look back. I couldn't. Every instinct screamed at me to get as far from him as possible. He'd had a secret phone, secret accounts, secret meetings. He'd bought rope and duct tape in the middle of the night. Whatever he wanted to say to me, I didn't trust it. The bus pulled away with Daniel still on it, and I caught one last glimpse of him pressed against the window, his hand flat against the glass, yelling something I couldn't hear over the rumble of the engine and the street noise. Liam and I ducked into an alley, both of us gasping for air. My legs felt like they might give out. Liam was crying again, and I realized I was too. Tears streamed down my face as the enormity of what was happening crashed over me again. My phone buzzed in my pocket. My regular phone this time, not the burner. A voicemail notification appeared. Unknown number. With shaking hands, I held the phone to my ear and listened. A man's voice, low and steady, professional. Mrs. Carter, my name is Detective Marco Ruiz. Your husband came to us hours ago. He says your lives are in danger, and he's not the one you should be running from. Please call me back at this number immediately. It's critical that we speak. I played the message again, trying to detect any hint of deception in the detective's tone. Your husband came to us. He's not the one you should be running from. Could that possibly be true? Or was this another trap, another person working for G? But something about the message felt different. The detective had known to call me. He knew Daniel had come to them. And if Daniel really was trying to protect us in some twisted way, it might explain why his car was parked where it was, why he was on that bus. I looked down at Liam, his face buried against my side, his small body still trembling. I thought about the USB drive in my pocket with all that evidence. I thought about Daniel's note. If you're reading this, I'm sorry. I thought about him pressed against that bus window, the look of desperation on his face. Maybe, just maybe, I'd been running from the wrong person. We ducked into a busy coffee shop 2 blocks from the transfer station. The Sunday morning crowd provided cover, and I needed a moment to think without running. I found a corner table where I could watch both exits and sat with Liam pressed against my side. My hands were still shaking as I pulled out my phone and stared at the number from Detective Ruiz's voicemail. Every fiber of my being screamed, not to trust anyone. But we couldn't keep running aimlessly through the city. Eventually, G's men would find us. And when they did, there would be no escape. I dialed the number. It rang twice before a calm male voice answered. Mrs. Carter? How did you know it was me? I've been waiting for your call. My name is Detective Marco Ruiz, Organized Crime Division. I need you to listen very carefully. Where are you right now? Why should I trust you? How do I know you're not working for them? There was a pause. You found a USB drive. Your husband hid it behind a vent in your living room. One of the audio files is labeled Conversation 3, February. In it, your husband argues with a man about pulling out of an arrangement. Does that match what you found? My breath caught. He knew about the USB. He knew specific details that only Daniel or I could know. Unless you could be working with Daniel. This could all be a setup. Mrs. Carter, Elena, I understand your fear. But if you walk into the wrong police station right now, Gabriel Lorenz will know before you finish giving your statement. I'm part of a task force that's been building a case against him for 2 years. Your husband came to us last night with evidence, with recordings, with everything. You were never supposed to find the original USB drive. He made a copy for you as insurance in case something happened to him. Gabriel Lorenz, I repeated. That's G.
Yes.
He's not just a criminal, Mrs. Carter. He's a ghost who operates through legitimate businesses, who has judges and officers on his payroll, who makes people disappear without a trace. Your husband has been laundering money for him for 3 years. The words hit me like physical blows, confirming what I'd already suspected but hoped wasn't true. So Daniel is guilty. Yes, Ruiz said simply. But he's been trying to get out for the past year. Gabriel doesn't let people leave. When your husband tried to back away, Gabriel made it clear that you and your son would be the price of his betrayal. I thought about the text messages on the burner phone. The kid too? No loose ends. He was going to kill us. Gabriel gave your husband an ultimatum. Either Daniel would handle the situation himself, or Gabriel's men would do it in a much more painful way. Your husband chose to wear a wire and cooperate with us instead. My mind reeled. The conversation Liam overheard. Daniel saying we'd go to sleep and it wouldn't hurt. That was Daniel pretending to cooperate while actually recording Gabriel giving the order. We needed Gabriel on tape explicitly ordering violence. But something went wrong last night. Gabriel got spooked and sent his men to your house early, hours before my team was supposed to extract you. When you ran, it put you outside our protection. I looked down at Liam, who was drawing shapes on the condensation of my water glass, trying to pretend he wasn't listening to every word. My sweet boy who'd been brave enough to lock the door and tell me not to let his father in because he'd heard something that terrified him. The hardware store purchases, I said. The rope and duct tape. Part of the staging. Daniel was supposed to create a scene convincing enough that Gabriel would believe you were dead, while you and Liam were actually in protective custody. It was a terrible plan with too many ways to fail, but it was the only option we had on such short notice. I pressed my free hand against my forehead, trying to process everything. So, Daniel isn't trying to kill us. He's trying to save us. In the most catastrophically incompetent way possible. Yes. But Gabriel thinks your husband is at your house right now having disposed of you both. When he discovers you're alive and missing, you'll become the primary target.
Daniel too.
Gabriel doesn't forgive betrayal. What do I do? Ruiz gave me an address, a precinct entrance through a back alley. He told me he'd meet us there personally in an unmarked car. Then he gave me a code phrase. Ask me what color the ledger is. If I'm really me, I'll say red and ruined. If I say anything else, or if anyone else shows up, run. How do I know this isn't a trap? You don't, he admitted. But right now, I'm the only option you have. And Mrs. Carter? Your husband wanted me to tell you something if I reached you. He said to tell you he's sorry for being a coward and that he should have trusted you enough to ask for help a long time ago. The line went dead. I sat there for a long moment, my coffee growing cold in front of me. Liam looked up at me with those wide, trusting eyes. Mom, what do we do? I pulled out my regular phone and did something I probably shouldn't have. I texted Daniel's number directly. If you wanted us safe, why didn't you tell me? The response came almost immediately, like he'd been waiting by his phone. Because I couldn't risk you acting normal. He watches everything. Please, Ellie. Ruiz is your only shot. Ellie. He hadn't called me that in months, maybe longer. It was his name for me from back when we first started dating, before marriage and mortgages and the slow drift of two people who stopped really seeing each other. I stood up, pulling Liam with me. Come on, baby. We're going to meet someone who might be able to help us. As we left the coffee shop, I nearly collided with a woman at the crosswalk. She stumbled back, startled, and I grabbed her arm to steady her. Then I recognized her face. Sabrina, our neighbor from 3 houses down, the one who was always outside tending her garden, who knew everyone's business. Her eyes widened when she saw us.
Elena?
Liam? Oh my goodness, I thought you'd already left town. Ice flooded my veins. What? 2 men came by this morning asking if we'd seen you. They said you and Daniel were taking an unexpected family trip, that they needed to reach you about some work emergency. She laughed nervously. I told them I saw Daniel leave early this morning but hadn't seen you. Why would they think you'd already gone? Because G's people were already spreading a cover story, making our disappearance seem planned and normal. So when we never came back, no one would ask questions. Just a misunderstanding. I managed. We're actually heading out now. Take care, Sabrina. I pulled Liam away before she could ask more questions. The encounter confirmed my worst fears. This wasn't just about silencing us. This was about erasing us so smoothly that even our neighbors wouldn't realize anything was wrong. 20 minutes later, we reached the alley Detective Ruiz had described. A narrow space between the back of the precinct building and a parking structure, barely visible from the street. An unmarked sedan sat there, engine running, exhaust puffing in the cool air. A man stepped out. Late 40s, Hispanic, wearing a rumpled suit with his badge clipped to his belt. His eyes scanned the alley before settling on us. Mrs. Carter?
I'm Detective Ruiz.
What color is the ledger? My heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my throat. This was the moment. Either I was about to be saved, or I was walking into the very trap I'd been running from all morning. I don't know, I said carefully. You tell me. He looked directly at me, his expression serious, red and ruined. For the first time since Liam had locked that door this morning, I felt a tiny spark of hope. Inside the car, Ruiz drove quickly but carefully, constantly checking his mirrors. Liam sat pressed against my side in the back seat, finally allowing himself to close his eyes. The adrenaline that had kept him going all morning was wearing off, and exhaustion was taking over. Where are we going? I asked. Safe house. We've got maybe 6 hours before Gabriel expects Daniel to confirm the job is done. We need to set up a sting before then. A sting? You want to use us as bait? Ruiz glanced at me in the rearview mirror. Gabriel already thinks you're dead. We're going to use that assumption to trap him. He's meeting with Daniel at 6 to get confirmation. We'll wire Daniel up, get Gabriel on tape ordering the hit and acknowledging the money laundering, and then take him down with a full tactical team. What if something goes wrong? Then we all have a very bad day. His bluntness was almost refreshing after hours of lies and half-truths. At least he wasn't sugarcoating the danger. We pulled into an industrial area and drove to what looked like an abandoned warehouse. But when Ruiz keyed in a code and the bay door rolled up, I saw it was anything but abandoned. Inside, the space had been converted into a command center. Computers, monitors, tactical equipment. And standing in the middle of it all, flanked by 2 uniformed officers, was Daniel. He looked terrible. His suit was wrinkled, his face pale and drawn. Dark circles shadowed his eyes like bruises. But when he saw us climb out of the car, when he saw Liam was safe, his face crumpled.
Liam.
Thank God. He started toward us, but I stepped in front of my son instinctively. Daniel stopped, understanding the barrier I'd created between them. Between us.
E.
Don't. My voice came out harder than I'd intended. You don't get to act relieved. You don't get to pretend this is a reunion. I know. I know what I've done. But please believe me, I never wanted any of this to touch you. I was trying to fix it. By lying? By hiding secret phones and secret money? By making deals with a criminal who wanted to murder your family? Daniel's face twisted with anguish. I made terrible choices. I got in too deep, and by the time I realized what Gabriel really was, it was too late to just walk away. He made it clear what would happen if I tried. He showed me pictures, Elena. Pictures of you at the grocery store, of Liam at school. He knew your routes, your schedules, everything. One of the officers, a stern woman with her hair pulled back tight, spoke up. Mr. Carter has been cooperating fully. He's provided us with evidence that will dismantle Gabriel Lorenz's entire operation. But we need this meeting to go perfectly. Gabriel is paranoid and careful. This might be our only shot. Ruiz pulled me aside while Liam stayed near the car, watched over by another officer. I need to brief you on what's happening. Gabriel expects Daniel at 6 o'clock at a parking garage on Industrial Boulevard. He's meeting to confirm you and your son are dead and to discuss Daniel's continued involvement in the organization. Continued involvement? He thinks Daniel is going to keep working for him after murdering his own family? Men like Gabriel see loyalty as absolute once you've crossed certain lines. In his mind, Daniel has proven himself by being willing to eliminate loose ends. Ruiz's expression was grim. What Gabriel doesn't know is that we've been building this case for 2 years. Daniel has been recording conversations, copying files, documenting everything for the past 8 months. Since Christmas, actually. I thought back to Christmas. Daniel had been different after the holidays, more withdrawn, more anxious. I'd thought it was work stress. Apparently, it was the weight of trying to betray a monster while keeping his family safe. So, what's the plan? Ruiz showed me to a bank of monitors. We got cameras positioned throughout the parking garage. Daniel will be wearing 3 separate recording devices, one in his jacket button, audio wire in his collar, and a transmitter under his watch band. Gabriel often checks people for wires, but we're hoping he'll be confident enough after the supposed deaths that he won't bother. And if he does find them? Ruiz didn't answer, which was answer enough. I watched Daniel across the room as technicians fitted him with the equipment. He was letting them wire him up, letting them turn him into bait to catch a predator. Despite everything, despite the lies and the betrayal and the catastrophic decisions, he was trying to make it right, even if it killed him. Liam pulled on my sleeve. Mom, is Dad gonna be okay? I wanted to lie, to tell him everything would be fine. But I was so tired of lies. I don't know, baby. But he's trying to fix a really big mistake. That's all we can ask for right now. As the team did their final preparations, I found myself standing next to Daniel. The technicians had stepped away to check their equipment, leaving us with a moment of privacy we hadn't had since this morning when he'd walked out the door. Thank you, he said quietly, for keeping Liam safe. When I saw you on that bus, when I realized you'd figured it out and run, I was terrified Gabriel's men had already found you. Liam saved us. He heard you last night and knew something was wrong. He locked the door and told me not to let you back in. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. He's smarter than both of us. He was terrified, Daniel. He thought his father was going to kill him. I know. His voice broke. I heard him that night. I knew he was on the stairs listening, and I couldn't stop talking because if Gabriel suspected anything, if he thought I wasn't committed to the plan, he would have moved against you right then. I had to keep playing the role. You could have told me. We could have gone to the police together. Gabriel has people inside law enforcement. Until I made contact with Ruiz's specific task force, I couldn't risk it. One wrong move, and we'd all be dead. Ruiz called out across the room. Time to move. Daniel, you ready? Daniel straightened, his face hardening into something resembling determination. He walked over to Liam and knelt down.
Hey, buddy.
I have to go do something important now. But I need you to know that everything I've done, even the scary stuff, was to try to keep you safe. I messed up really bad, but I'm going to fix it. Okay. Liam looked at him for a long moment and then did something I didn't expect. He hugged his father, just threw his small arms around Daniel's neck, and held on tight. Be careful, Daddy. Daniel squeezed his eyes shut, and when he pulled back, tears were streaming down his face. I will, I promise. As Daniel walked toward the exit with an escort team, Ruiz guided me and Liam to the monitoring station. You'll be able to see and hear everything from here. If something goes wrong, we have SWAT positioned at every exit. Gabriel won't walk out of that garage. What about Daniel? Ruiz met my eyes. If it comes down to a choice between getting your husband out safely and catching Gabriel Lorenz, my priority is stopping Gabriel. I won't lie to you about that. I sat down at the monitor with Liam in my lap, my heart in my throat. On the screens, I watched Daniel climb out of an unmarked car 2 blocks from the parking garage. He walked alone, hands in his pockets, trying to look casual. But I could see the tension in his shoulders, the way he kept glancing around. The parking garage was old, poorly lit even in the afternoon. Perfect for a meeting you didn't want witnessed. As Daniel walked up the ramp to the 3rd level, a dark town car pulled in from the opposite entrance. 3 men got out. 2 of them I didn't recognize, big guys in dark clothes who screamed, muscle. But the 3rd man, The one in the expensive coat who moved with the casual confidence of someone who'd never faced real consequences had to be Gabriel Lorenz. Even through the grainy camera footage, I could see the coldness in his eyes. This was a man who'd ordered the deaths of a 6-year-old boy and his mother, like he was ordering lunch. And now Daniel was walking straight toward him. "Here we go," Ruiz muttered, leaning closer to the monitors. Gabriel smiled as Daniel approached. It was the smile of a shark. "Daniel, you look exhausted. I hope it's because you were busy last night." Through the hidden microphone, I heard every word clearly. Daniel's voice came through slightly distorted but audible. "It's done. They're gone." "Gone where specifically?" "I like details." This was it. The moment where Daniel either convinced a monster he'd murdered his own family, or where everything fell apart. Daniel's voice held steady, though I could hear the strain underneath. "I took them where nobody will find them, like you asked." Gabriel circled him slowly, like a predator sizing up prey. The parking garage's fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across his face, making him look even more menacing. Interesting choice of words. Where nobody will find them. That could mean many things, couldn't it, Daniel? On the monitor, I watched Daniel's hands clench briefly at his sides before forcing himself to relax. He had to play this perfectly. One wrong word, one hint of deception, and Gabriel would know. "The reservoir north side," Daniel said. "Weighted them down properly. Nobody goes fishing there this time of year." My stomach turned at the casual way he described it, even knowing it was a lie. Gabriel seemed pleased, though, nodding slowly. "And the boy?" "I need to know specifically about the boy. Children can be difficult for some people." I felt Liam tense in my lap. I pulled him closer, covering his ears even though he'd already heard more than any child should. Daniel's response came after the briefest hesitation. He didn't fight. "You said no loose ends." "I gave you no loose ends." Gabriel laughed, actually laughed. The sound made my skin crawl. "I knew you had it in you, Daniel. I knew the first time I met you. Underneath all that suburban respectability, you were willing to do what was necessary. That's why I chose you for this work." Ruiz leaned forward, muttering into his radio. "We've got conspiracy and solicitation. Hold position until he admits to the laundering." On screen, Gabriel pulled out a cigarette and lit it, taking a long drag. "Now, about our continued arrangement. With your family situation resolved, there's no reason we can't keep our partnership going. In fact, I'm planning to expand operations. I'll need someone I can trust to manage the new accounts." "New accounts?" Daniel asked, and I could hear the forced interest in his voice. "I've acquired several businesses in the medical supply sector. Very profitable, very clean-looking on paper. The money flows through like water." Gabriel gestured expansively. "You'll keep doing what you've been doing. Managing the books, the offshore transfers, making sure everything looks legitimate. Just on a larger scale. And if I want it out?" The temperature in the garage seemed to drop. Gabriel's smile vanished. "Out?" "Daniel, you just killed your wife and child. You think you can walk away from that? Walk away from me? You're in this forever now." That was the point. "I know," Daniel said quickly. "I just meant after everything, I'm tired. That's all." Gabriel studied him for a long moment, and I could see Daniel fighting to keep his expression neutral. Then Gabriel's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and his entire demeanor changed. The casual confidence evaporated, replaced by ice-cold fury. "Interesting timing," Gabriel said softly. "I just received a notification that someone accessed several of my offshore accounts from an unauthorized location. Care to explain that, Daniel?" My blood ran cold. On the monitor, I saw Daniel's face go pale.
Beside me, Ruiz swore viciously.
How the hell did he get an alert? We were supposed to be locked out of his security systems. Gabriel pulled a gun from inside his coat and pressed it against Daniel's chest in one smooth motion. His men moved to flank them, cutting off any escape route. "You thought you were clever? You thought you could betray me, and I wouldn't know?" Ruiz was already barking into his radio. "All units move in. Go, go, go." On the screen, Daniel raised his hand slowly. Gabriel, listen to me. Where are they, Daniel? Your wife and son. Where are they really? Because I'm guessing not at the bottom of any reservoir. Daniel made a split-second decision. Instead of denying it, instead of trying to maintain the fiction, he did something I didn't expect. He yelled at the top of his lungs. They're with Detective Ruiz. They're safe, and you're done. He deliberately gave away our location, but he also drew Gabriel's full attention away from the idea that we might be somewhere vulnerable. He was protecting us even now, even at the cost of whatever tactical advantage Ruiz had planned. Gabriel's face twisted with rage. He looked up toward the camera positions, finally realizing this was a trap. You set me up. You actually set me up. Then he fired. The gunshot echoed through the speakers and I screamed, Liam crying out beside me. On the screen, Daniel fell backward, clutching his arm. Blood spread across his shirt sleeve, but he was moving, conscious. The bullet had hit his shoulder, not his chest. All hell broke loose. SWAT officers poured in from every level of the garage, their voices overlapping on the radio as they shouted commands. Gabriel's men pulled their weapons, but found themselves surrounded. One of them was smart enough to drop his gun and raise his hands immediately. The other tried to fire and was taken down by a precision shot from somewhere above. Gabriel grabbed one of the incoming officers as a human shield, his gun pressed against the officer's temple. He backed toward a side ramp, dragging his hostage with him. The SWAT team held position, nobody willing to risk the officer's life. I watched helplessly as Ruiz appeared on the screen, walking out from cover with his hands visible, his weapon holstered. He approached Gabriel slowly, deliberately putting himself in danger. Gabriel Lorenz, Ruiz said calmly, you're not walking out of here. We have your voice on tape ordering the murder of Elena and Liam Carter. We have evidence of your money laundering operation, your offshore accounts, and testimony from 15 people you've threatened or extorted. It's over. Is it? Gabriel laughed bitterly. You think I'm the only one? I have judges, police chiefs, city councilmen on my payroll. You take me down, someone else just steps into my place. Maybe. But you'll be in a cell either way. You shoot that officer, you'll die right here in this parking garage. You surrender, you might live long enough to see a courtroom. Gabriel's grip on the officer tightened. Seconds stretched into eternity. Then a sharp crack split the air, a sniper shot from somewhere above. The gun flew from Gabriel's hand, his fingers shattered by the bullet. He screamed, collapsing, and the officer scrambled away. SWAT moved in immediately, forcing Gabriel face down on the concrete, cuffing him as he cursed and threatened. His men were secured as well, all of them being read their rights, as they were hauled away. I couldn't see Daniel anymore in the chaos. Medics had rushed in, and I watched them working on someone on the ground, but the angle was wrong. I couldn't see if it was him or one of the officers. I need to be there, I said, standing up so fast Liam nearly fell from my lap. I need to see him. Ruiz appeared beside me, having apparently run back from the garage. Mrs. Carter, you need to stay here until we secure the scene completely. There could still be associates of Gabriel's in the area. I don't care. That's my husband. In the end, they let me go, but with a full escort. Liam stayed behind with a victim advocate, someone trained to help children through trauma. I didn't want to leave him, but I also needed to see Daniel with my own eyes, needed to know if he was alive, or dying, or already gone. The parking garage was controlled chaos when we arrived. Police vehicles everywhere, officers taking statements, evidence being photographed and collected. They led me to an ambulance where paramedics were working on someone. Daniel. He was conscious, his face twisted in pain but alive.
So alive.
The bullet had gone through his shoulder, the paramedic said, missing anything vital. He'd need surgery, but he would survive. When he saw me approaching, relief flooded his features.
Elena.
Is Liam?
He's fine.
He's safe. You saved us, Daniel. You almost got yourself killed, but you saved us. His eyes filled with tears. I'm so sorry. For all of it. For every choice that led us here. I thought I could handle it on my own, thought I could protect you by keeping you in the dark. I was so wrong. I sat down on the ambulance's back step. suddenly exhausted beyond words. You were. You were monumentally, catastrophically wrong about almost everything. I know. We sat in silence for a moment, the sounds of the arrest scene continuing around us. Finally, I asked the question I'd been holding since I first found that USB drive. What happens now? Ruiz answered from behind me. I hadn't heard him approach. Mr. Carter has a plea agreement. Full cooperation in exchange for reduced charges and witness protection for your family. He'll serve time, Mrs. Carter. I can't pretend otherwise. But given his role in bringing down Gabriel's network and the danger he put himself in today, we're talking a couple years, not decades. And all of it in a secure facility. Daniel looked at me, hope and fear warring in his expression. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know I destroyed your trust in me. But if you're willing, when I get out, I'd like a chance to be the husband and father I should have been all along. I thought about Liam locking the door this morning, about the terror in his eyes when he begged me not to let his father in, about the hours we'd spent running, afraid for our lives, not knowing who to trust. But I also thought about Daniel on that bus, desperate to reach us, about him wearing a wire to face down a monster, about him telling Gabriel where we were to draw attention away from us, even though it meant giving up any tactical advantage. I don't forgive you, I said finally. Not yet. Maybe not for a long time. But I believe you were trying to save us in the only way you knew how. So, when you get out, we'll talk. Really talk. And we'll see if there's anything left to rebuild. It wasn't much, but it was honest. And after a day built on lies and secrets and fear, honesty felt like a foundation we could maybe, someday, build on. 3 hours later, I sat in a hotel room with Liam, both of us freshly showered and wearing clothes provided by the Victim Services Unit. Gabriel was in custody, along with 7 of his associates. The news was already reporting a major organized crime bust, though our names were being kept confidential. Liam was finally asleep, curled up under clean sheets, his breathing deep and even. The advocates had recommended child trauma counseling, said it was important to help him process what he'd experienced. I agreed immediately. My brave boy who'd saved us by locking that door deserved all the help we could give him. I sat by the window, looking out at the city lights, and thought about the future. Witness protection meant new identities, a new town, new schools for Liam. Our old life was over. The house where Liam had taken his first steps, where Daniel and I had imagined growing old together, where this morning had started with such innocent expectations. All of it was gone now, replaced by something uncertain and frightening, but also, maybe, honest in a way our old life had stopped being. My phone buzzed with a text from Daniel, sent from the hospital. Just 3 words. I love you. I stared at those words for a long time before typing back. I know. That's why this hurts so much. Then I turned off my phone, climbed into bed beside my sleeping son, and let myself cry. For the marriage I thought I had, for the man I thought I'd married, for the innocence my son had lost today. But also for the fact that we were alive. We were together. And somehow, impossibly, we'd survived. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Statements to give, arrangements to make, a whole life to dismantle and rebuild from scratch. But tonight, I held my son close and reminded myself that the most important thing, the only thing that really mattered, was safe in my arms. We'd made it through the worst day of our lives. Whatever came next, we'd face it together. The knock on the door made me pause in the middle of chopping vegetables for dinner. Old habits die hard. Even after 6 years in this quiet suburban neighborhood in Oregon, even knowing Gabriel and his network were serving life sentences, my first instinct at an unexpected knock was still fear. But then I heard the car door slam and recognized the sound of Liam's voice, now 12 years old, and in that awkward stage between boy and young man. Got it, Mom. I heard him check the door, the sound of the deadbolt sliding into place, then his footsteps coming toward the kitchen. He appeared in the doorway with a smile. Just making sure we're safe, Mom. The words echoed that terrible morning 6 years ago, but now they came with a grin instead of terror. Therapy had helped him understand that what happened wasn't his fault, that his father's choices didn't define him, that locking that door had been exactly the right thing to do. "Good man," I said, ruffling his hair before he dodged away. "Dinner in 20 minutes. Is Dad still coming by?" "Should be here any minute." Daniel had been released from federal prison 8 months ago. His cooperation had brought down not just Gabriel, but an entire network of corruption spanning 3 states. Combined with his good behavior and the genuine remorse the judge recognized, he'd served 4 years of his sentence. He lived in a small apartment across town now, working as a bookkeeper for a nonprofit that helped former inmates reintegrate into society. Ironic, maybe, but he was good at it. He understood better than most what it meant to dig yourself out of a hole of your own making. We weren't married anymore. I'd filed for divorce while he was still serving time, needing that clean break to heal. But we were something else now. Co-parents who respected each other. Friends, even in a careful way. Maybe someday something more, but for now, this worked. The doorbell rang, and this time I answered it. Daniel stood on the porch holding a pizza box and wearing the slightly nervous smile he always had when visiting. Like he still couldn't quite believe we let him be part of our lives. "Hey, Ellie. Hey yourself. Pizza night again?" Liam requested it. I'm not going to argue with the kid. We ate together, the 3 of us, talking about Liam's school project and Daniel's work and my part-time job at the library. Normal things. Boring things. Beautiful, safe, honest things. After dinner, Daniel helped with dishes while Liam did homework. As we stood side by side at the sink, Daniel spoke quietly. "Thank you for letting me be here. I know I don't deserve it. You're his father, Daniel. You made terrible choices, but you also saved our lives. Liam needs to understand that people are complicated. That someone can hurt you and still love you. That redemption is possible, but takes work. Am I redeemed?" I thought about it for a moment. "You're getting there. Ask me again in another 6 years." He smiled, and it was genuine, reaching his eyes in a way it hadn't during those last months before everything fell apart. Fair enough. Later, after Daniel left and Liam was in bed, I stood in my doorway watching my son sleep. He'd grown so much. He was brave and kind and funny, and somehow despite everything he'd witnessed, he'd managed to hold on to his essential goodness. I thought about that morning when he locked the door and told me not to let his father in. How that single act of intuition and courage had saved both our lives. How sometimes the people we love most are the ones we need protection from, and how hard that truth is to accept. But I also thought about second chances. About how Daniel had spent 6 years proving he meant his apology. How he showed up for therapy, for co-parenting meetings, for every birthday and school event, never expecting praise or forgiveness, just quietly doing the work. The past would always be there. You can't erase the terror of running through city streets afraid for your life. You can't unhear the sound of your 6-year-old son saying his father was planning something terrible. Those scars remain. But scars also prove you survived. They're evidence of healing, of strength, of making it through the impossible. I closed Liam's door and went back downstairs, locking the front door behind me. The house was secure. My son was safe. And tomorrow would be another ordinary day in our new, honest, hard-won life. It wasn't the fairy tale I'd imagined on my wedding day. It was something messier and more complicated and infinitely more real. But it was ours. And that, I'd learned, was enough. If someone you loved was trapped between saving you and saving themselves, would you ever be able to forgive them? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe for more stories about the complicated truth of family, trust, and redemption.